Hello everyone and welcome to stackconf 2021 in my Prometheus talk. So the goal today will be to see what is Prometheus, what we have done in 2021 and what will come in the future. So I'm pretty excited to be there, and I am Julien Pivotto. I work at NETWAYS. We are doing open source consultancy across Europe and the globe, and I have been working there for 10 years. And I have joined the Prometheus project 1 year ago in 2020, even if I have been using Prometheus like since 2017. And now I am maintaining the Prometheus server, so I'm really happy to be there and to provide you with the latest update that we have on Prometheus and what will come in the coming weeks or months. But first, let's start for the people who might not know Prometheus. So what is Prometheus? So Prometheus is an open source monitoring solution. So we are licensed under an Apache 2 license. We are part of the CNCF, the Cloud Native Compute Foundation, which is the foundation which also hosts Kubernetes and a lot of other projects. So Prometheus was the second project graduated from CNCF, and it was actually like born in 2012, but it was only announced publicly in 2015, and then we became graduated in 2018. So we are quite a stable project. We are making strong stability promises to our users, but still we want to know exploring new areas and bringing a lot more features to our user, a lot more added value. So let's see what will come next for the project. Prometheus is a community. We have a lot of people contributing to the community. We have a lot of so-called exporters. So an exporter is something that can expose metrics for Prometheus to consume. We have more and more exporters available. It's also a full ecosystem, which means that there are vendors around Prometheus. There are a lot of systems that we interact with to push the metrics, to get metrics from, but also people who try to imitate Prometheus. That claim that they are like PromQL compatible. We will see all of that later in this talk, but like this is a full ecosystem. It is just not one project. It is really like a complete set of projects. And then Prometheus, of course, it is the Prometheus server as you know it. It is the Alertmanager, it is the node exporter. So we have a lot of official projects that we are actually using and promoting for the users to consume. So the Prometheus server itself, which will be like part of the talk today, it's open source. It is a pooled-based monitoring solution. So we are pooling metrics that for consummation later on. We have a powerful query language, and we have an optimized time series database. So if I want to show you what is Prometheus, so we have a demo website. Where you can have like a demo of what is Prometheus. Let me make that maybe bigger. So this is Prometheus. This is the Prometheus server, and you can see that we have like if I look for a metric, I can just find the metric, and so this is like the CPU time, and then I have a query language that enables me to run queries like this. Rate, node CPU, total 5 minutes, and then I have like the CPU usage. Now I have like, I know that my server is 93% idle, for example. I can actually now run call labels and up so that what we have as metrics also have queries. So now I can do like mode is not idle because I am not that interested into idle time. And now I can actually like look back in time and see, oh, something happened like today at 2 p.m. on the server. So this is the kind of things, the kind of metrics that you can have with Prometheus. Of course, Prometheus is not alone. We also have like Grafana that can act as a front end, which is like the most popular front end to Prometheus, when you can also have like really nice graphs and metrics. So if I show you Grafana, so here we have also a Grafana demo that we can look at, and then you can see that this is even getting more power to the Prometheus graphing system. So if I look at this one, you see that we have like a bunch of ways to display the data, a bunch of different options about how you want to query your data thanks to Grafana. So that's Prometheus. We pull metrics. So what's a metric? So if I just go back to Prometheus and show you Prometheus, Prometheus itself is exposing some metrics. So this is what metrics looks like. So basically just like a metric has a name, then it will have labels, and then it will have numbers. So that is Prometheus metrics. It is just like plain text. It works over HTTP, so you can add TLS, you can add whatever you want. And we have a lot span of security way to get your metrics, TLS, basic authentication, OpenID Connect, that kind of thing. So we really support a lot of different ways to gather the metrics, but it is always over HTTP. It should always be like easy to debug using curl or that kind of things. So that is Prometheus. So we have a query language that you have seen, and we also have the query language is called PromQL, and you also have a time series database embedded into Prometheus. So we are speaking to a local time series database locally, and we rely on that one, and we use that to do the alerting. So Prometheus can do white box and black box monitoring, which means that you can choose to instrument your application, and then we will just get all the information from the inside of your application and able to really like understand how the application behaves looking at its metrics. But we also support black box monitoring, which is like, does my HTTP endpoint answer properly, or even like in that with your partners. So if you rely on an external service, you can do black box monitoring from Prometheus as well. Prometheus is not only like a replacement for like graphing and that kind of things. Prometheus can do the full alerting as well. So once you have a metric, once you have a query, you can actually put that inside an alert and decide, okay, I want to alert on a threshold. And this is very powerful because you can have really powerful queries at play. You can have like dynamic thresholds, you can have static thresholds, you can decide to alert after like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and like you have a really fully featured alerting solution with Prometheus as well. And it works really well with third-party services like PagerDuty, Git. You can create GitLab issues. You can do a lot of stuff with the Alertmanager integrations. So we have label time series, as you have seen. The CPU time, you can see like with the CPU time, you can see if it is like idle, user, system, IO. But this is even more powerful when you integrate that with your business metrics or your HTTP metrics, because then you have like the return code which should be a label, or your business code which should be a label, that kind of things. It is really powerful when you start playing with the labels. And as I've said also, it works over HTTP. So we will see what's new under three different angles. So the community, the software, and the ecosystem. So we are now looking at the community. So Prometheus community, we are more open than ever. So this is really important. The Prometheus is open source since a very long time. But we sometimes, especially when the events were physical, well, there was some meetings like developer summits, which were like only with a small group because they were physical. You cannot have 200 people discussing. Now that we are doing it online, we are opening that up for everyone to join. So, and we are recording them. We also have now working groups, and we have like bug triage, which are also like online. So if you go to prometheus.io/community, you now have an agenda /community. And this is really important. So if I look at the agenda, So now we have everything documented, every meeting. So you can see that we have a storage working group. We are working on a documentation working group. I will speak about that later. We also have the dev summits, and we have a bunch of different meetings where you can join if you want to learn more about Prometheus, or if you want to speak with us. We really have multiple meetings for multiple purposes, but we are really like more open than ever. The second thing is that we are doing mentorship, which means that we want to welcome new contributors or even like non-contributors that have extra questions. We know that the Prometheus is used widely and that like uh, we know why people like Prometheus. We know why they like it, and we know that this is not easy translated into code. Like we have some principles, and sometimes it is really better to or easier to get someone from the team explaining you the code, how the code is working, or you can better help us at thing. So for the people who want to contribute to Prometheus, we now have weekly contributor office hours. So once a week, we take 1 hour to speak with the contributors, the people who want to contribute, and basically like we want to discuss with you. If you are blocked in a pull request, we want to help you. If you want to review, we can also help you. So basically like we dedicate our time to help the contributors. From week to week, we will address a different time zones. So we have one time zone which is more like Europe oriented, and one time zone which is more like US oriented. So we have people in the team in different time zones. So we have like Europe, India, and then US. So check out the calendar if you're interested. So this is really like if you want to contribute to Prometheus. Now we are really like doing some kind of weekly mentorship. And now we are also looking to participate in some programs like the LFX mentorship and the Google Summer of Code. So we did actually like submit to GSOC this year. We were not selected, but I think it's something that we will do even more because like mentorship is really important to us. And LFX, well, we will see at the time of recording this presentation. I cannot announce you, but like we see that LFX is like really getting up, and there are a lot of sessions, and we are actually engaging with the community to participate there as well. So we really want to onboard new people, make the code more discoverable, that kind of thing. So this is really something that we are putting time right now into it. So as I said, we have the community channels which are on the website. So basically, you go to prometheus.io/community, and there you will see like how you can find us. So we are on IRC, we are on Matrix, we are on Slack, we have mailing list, and we have also launched a discourse forum. So if you are interested in Prometheus, we also know, I think this is a direction we want to go to. We also have like a discourse forum. So this is still starting up. So this is still really, really new. We do that really, we want to lower the barrier to entry to use Prometheus to find help. And we have found out that discourse might be like another great way to do that. So this is something we are actively working on, setting up discourse and working with the community there on Discord. By the way, I want to thank the discourse team because they set that up for us and they maintain us for us. So this is really, really great to have discourse for Prometheus. So let's now have a look at the software. So Prometheus as a server, we have a lot of stuff that is coming or that has come in the last year. The first thing that was a long wait and a long awaited thing was server-side TLS and basic authentication. So in 2021, we have added native TLS and basic authentication on the server, which means that you can expose Prometheus with TLS, you can expose Prometheus behind basic authentication without a reverse proxy. So natively, Prometheus will be able to be protected by TLS and basic authentication. The second thing that we have added is exemplars. So I will not go into the details of exemplars now. You can actually find on the web Grafana exemplar on the Grafana blog. You will find a way better presentation about this. So The Grafana exemplars, basically they enable you to directly jump from metrics to traces. Let me find. So the exemplars, basically, it is something that you will attach to your metrics and that will directly point you at a trace ID. So if you have like a query with the latency, you can just jump to your Jaeger trace or your open tracing trace, that kind of things directly from Prometheus to from Prometheus data to the trace ID. So you don't need to jump to the logs. You have a directly link between the metrics and the traces. So this is really something that I am looking forward to grow in the future. So this is not something that is very, very like available everywhere yet, but like we are working on that. We are also working on adding that to the Prometheus server UI. So currently we have the API, but we want to have that in the UI as well. Backfilling. So basically, like we have multiple ways of backfilling Prometheus today, and mainly thanks to the community. So basically, you can now backfill your Prometheus server. So if you are coming from another another monitoring solution, you can now directly like import metrics into a Prometheus server. So you can backfill from the open metrics format. So basically, like you can create a file with open metrics, which is a format of metrics, and then import that file, and it will be turned into Prometheus blocks that you can then put inside the TSDB. The second type of backfilling is backfilling for recording rules. So when you create a recording rules in Prometheus, so a recording rule, what is it? It is a pre-recording of metrics. So if you have a big computation and you want to like pre-record its value, its query, then you can just like enter the query in a recording rule and it will just compute the result. But what we have now is that you can also backfill for the past. So if you are introducing a new recording rule, you can now have it also in your Prometheus server. So this is also something which is very, very recent, and like it was one of the oldest Prometheus issues actually, but now we have it directly on the server. And the next thing is the remote write receiver. So what is the remote write receiver? This is like the ability for Prometheus to receive remote write data. Remote write is, you can see that as the replication protocol for Prometheus. So basically, it enables to write the metrics that Prometheus is scraping to an external system. Previously, it was Cortex, Thanos, PromScale. So there were a lot of different remote write receiver. The goal was to achieve long-term storage of the metrics, or even like global view of the metrics, that kind of thing. So basically, locally Prometheus would do the alerting and do the scraping, and then it would hand out the data in an external system, which is more durable, but maybe also more fragile. That's why we have we don't have those features inside Prometheus itself. We are still a core monitoring solution, and like we can just handle the data to someone else who can do maybe more work on that, or like reconcile them, etc. But now Prometheus itself can receive remote write. So you can have a Prometheus server which will receive directly from another Prometheus the data. So it's like really like replicating from one Prometheus to another. And there are multiple scenarios where that is really useful. For example, if you have Prometheus on the edge of your network, you don't have the full freedom on the network flow that you can use, or like your Prometheus. So, or if you run Prometheus on a really small device, you can just have a bigger Prometheus that can just get the data, that kind of thing. So this is the remote write receiver. And like it's like the federation that you know in Prometheus, but like the other way around, with a bit more complexity, but also a bit more optimization. The service discovery. So 2 years ago, I think, that we have lifting. So there was a moratorium of service discoveries, but we have lifted the moratorium. So now we can have new service discoveries. And over the last year, we have added a lot of new service discoveries. So Eureka, Etzner, Docker Swarm, DigitalOcean, AWS Lightsail, and Scaleway are all service discoveries that we have added recently. So if you are a customer of one of those cloud providers or one of those solutions, you can now, without any sidecar, without any new thing, next to Prometheus to configure it, you can now discover your targets and have an always up-to-date list of things to monitor in Prometheus. So we highly encourage you to look at that if you are using one of those providers. It is a lot better than hard coding your target inside Prometheus. And service discovery is a strength of Prometheus, especially like we know that we have a lot of Kubernetes users, so we are really good with the Kubernetes service discovery, but we also have now a really good set, and we already had a good set of service discoveries, and we are expanding that almost on every release. We have new service discoveries. They all play together, and this is really like an area where we are actually like growing a lot these times. So PromQL, so that's another interesting one. So PromQL, the Prometheus query language, now we are seeing new features, and the new features, some of them are really like breaking new features, which we will dig into now. First, I will just show you like the new features. So we have the at modifier, we have new functions, and we have like the negative offset. So let's have a look. So I will once again go to the demo website. So was it the demo website? No. Oops. So prometheus.demo.prometheus.io. So I am back in my Prometheus server. I will actually like already use the experimental editor, which is a lot better. So, and now I will just like show you a bunch of new things. First of all, we have added a function that the community was asking for a long time, which is just last over time, which just enables you to pick the last value. So if I just like so if I have a flippy target or that kind of metrics, I can just have the last value for a specific target. In this demo, we don't really have a use case for this, so I will skip the use case for now. But this is like the kind of new functions that we are adding, and we are looking to add even more functions in the coming weeks or months. So then we have the at modifier. So what is the at modifier? So let's have a look. So if I have a query like process CPU seconds total, so here I have what I have here is a query that tells me, okay, this is the CPU usage for all the applications. And Prometheus actually like has a function to get like the 4 top processes that use this CPU. And that function is called topk. So if I add topk there, I now see the 4 top processes that use the CPU. The issue is that if you see on the bottom, like the 3 first one are actually like quite clear, quite distinct. So they are using CPU for sure. But like you see that the fourth one, well, sometimes it is one instance, another time it is another instance. So what I actually want is to have the processes that are now using the more CPU time. And now at every time the top 4. I want the top 4 from now, and I want to see the history for that one. So now I can use the at modifier. So I will keep my red command and I will use the at modifier. I will take it and then I will do end rate, and then I will do at and like this. So this will normally only show me like 4 entries now. If I press execute, oh, I missed the top key, like this. So now I have the 4 top processes that using the most CPU usage, thanks to the at modifier, and I don't see like flapping stuff, and if I go below, I only have 4 entries. So this is kind of an advanced feature, so we are looking forward to have like maybe more tooling support. But like this is like really a nice way to start. And we really like it solves a bunch of issues when you had to write multiple annotations in Grafana to know exactly what are my top time series. Now I want to graph them over time, blah, blah, blah. Now you have that quite nicely with Prometheus. The end can also be start, and it can also be a timestamp. So this is something that we have now in Prometheus. I think that it can solve a lot of different use cases. We also have now negative offsets, so it means that like if I look at something now, you know that like Prometheus, you can look. So if I will just limit that to like one job, for example. So Prometheus, so don't look really at the metrics, but Prometheus used to have like offset. Yes, Prometheus have an offset, which means that you can take the data from 1 minute before and display it. So this can be used in calculations, but also like if I do like probe success, I can look like offset 1 hour. I see what was the result 1 hour ago. What you can do now is that especially when you query data in the past, you can do offset minus 1 hour, so which is the offset in the opposite direction. Which can be useful when you know that the data, for example, is coming too late or too early. You can play a bit more about your data. Now, the feature that I've shown you, the at modifier and the negative offset, they actually require special command line flags because like they can break the proxies in the middle. So there are proxies that will cache the Prometheus data, and those proxies might not understand the new features. As we have strong guarantee promises, we have decided to have like an enable feature or feature flag so that we are protecting the experimental feature behind the flag. So it is completely safe for our default user. But if you want to experiment PromQL modifier negative offset, just go for the flag and try and tell us what you think about it. And this is the same way that you enable the remote write receiver, just enable feature remote write receiver and you have it. So that was for PromQL. Now we have the UI. Well, I obviously like spoiled you already. So 1 year ago we made the switch to a new UI. So it is now written in React.js, which is really like a nice language, and we have like a lot of contributors working on it now. So this is really like a win. And so if I show you the UI of Prometheus, so the classic UI look like this. Well, you probably know it. You don't directly see maybe the difference with the new UI, but like first of all, we have a new experimental editor. So this is like this button. Now you can see that we have like really like advanced auto completion. So we have completion on the metrics. You can also see the description of the metrics. So if I take like, you see the description of the metrics is on that side. This is really nice when you work with Prometheus, and if you have like a complex function like Toolkit, you can also directly have like type 5 and then select your input vector. So this is really helping you writing metrics, and I really enjoy working with the new experimental editor. So it's actually like something that has been in the work for quite some time, and it was used by third-party products like PromLabs first, and it was contributed by Julius Vols to the Prometheus server, which is really, really nice. So you need to enable it. I think it will be enabled by default in the next release, probably, because this is just like really a great way to work with Prometheus, especially to discover it, to discover what do the function do. We also have like auto completion for the label. So if I type up, and then I know like, okay, this is the labels, and then in the instance, I directly have the list of the instances, and I can really easily auto complete my queries. So now I just have a really fluent way of working with the Prometheus metrics. We still have the old, well, we introduced also the list of the metrics like we had in previous Prometheus releases, so it's still there if you want it. You know, in the classic UI it was a drop down. Now you have that button to show you the metrics that are into Prometheus. So another feature that our users, well, that we introduced and that our users have contributed is the dark theme. So now Prometheus has a dark theme. So now you can see the life in dark. So I know that there is some hype around the darkness. And like Prometheus now, with a button, you have the choice. You can use the dark theme, you can use the browser settings, and you can use the lighting. So this is still like very recent. It's probably still not perfect, but there is a lot of work that has been put there already, and you can already see that we are waiting for the feedback for the users to see like how this will evolve. But I think this is really a nice addition for the UI because a lot of people actually like prefer that theme. So let's just have it and experiment with that and see how this is actually like going. So that was for the UI. Quite a bunch of things there. So let's move on. Alertmanager. So I will just like quickly recap Alertmanager. So we had one release this year. It was the mid-May, and there was a lot of things in this release. So we had like UI improvements. We had time-based muting, which means that you can decide now to silence alert based on the time of the day. And we also have negative matcher, which means that you can directly, how to say that, you can directly use, instead of silencing something for a label that it has, you can silence for a label that it does not have or it does not match. So maybe I can still show you that a bit. So give me a moment. And so I will just launch an Alertmanager. So I have an Alertmanager now. So let's go here in my web UI. Okay. So this is the latest release of Alertmanager. So the main changes that you will see is in the silences when I will show you the negative matchers, that kind of things. So when you have a silence, when you create a new silence, you can decide like I want to silence one instance. You can say instance is localhost 1990, and it will just silence all the alerts with the labels 100.0.0.1.1990. So this is like a classic matcher in Prometheus. But now what if you want to, instead of silencing a specific instance, you have a big incident and you decide, okay, I want to focus on production, or I want to focus on the data center first, I want to getting back in normal. So you can say, okay, everything that is not in production will be just silenced now. So you can do environment is different than production. So this is really a new feature that I think will help a lot of people. So now you will have a silence on everything but production. So you will only get alerts from production if you enable this silence. So this is really like a nice new addition. While we are there, you have a new button in the Alertmanager, and you have a full calendar now where you can actually like select the duration of your silences, which I think is a nice improvement considering that previously we only have those 3 fields. Now you can actually like complete them with that, so I can have like easily set a 1 week silence, that kind of things, and now it's automatically set up in in this UI. So that was for the Alertmanager. We have a lot of new things. The last thing that I want to mention about the Alertmanager is that now the Alertmanager, we have removed the moratorium on new integration. So we can integrate with HipChat, PagerDuty, VictorOps, and a bunch of other receivers, but we are adding new ones now. And we know that we will probably soon have AWS SNS as a direct integration into the Alertmanager. So that's pretty nice to see that we will still reach a new range of users. So the ecosystem now. So what have we improved and changed in the ecosystem? So first of all, we have created an exporter toolkit. So the exporter toolkit is a set of reusable code that can be used by exporters. So we want to unify the experience using the exporters. So the exporter toolkit currently contains HTTPS, but it will soon contain a lot more. So, but the goal is really like that code, you can reuse it to build your exporters. Then we are having more and more repositories in Prometheus Community. So what is Prometheus Community? Well, Prometheus Community, it is a GitHub organization that contains exporters. We provide the home for exporters that exist somewhere else, but that we cannot maintain only in the Prometheus team. So you can see a few exporters, like we have moved yesterday the Elasticsearch exporter, Windows exporter, Postgres. So this is a kind of tools and exporters that we have in the Prometheus ecosystem that we maintain. So like we keep an eye on them. We don't maintain all of them within the Prometheus team, so there are a lot of people in that organization that maintain all those different exporters and those tools, because we have like push procs, we have a prom label proxy, so a proxy that enforces that a label is in a Prometheus query, that kind of things. So all those things are now directly like, well, indirectly supported by Prometheus in the Prometheus community, which is like a home for the Prometheus project, which don't have a home anymore, basically. So what's coming now? So let's see what's coming from the community side. So from the community side, we are launching a community working group, which means that we are building a team to improve and rework the documentation. So we know that documentation is a pain point for Prometheus for some reasons, but we want to provide more user stories, more guides, and we want to rework the way that we do the documentation. So this is a great way to get involved in Prometheus. So we have a bunch of people already interested. We have not bootstrapped it fully yet at the time of speaking, but this will really come. And the goal is, once again, we want to make it even easier to start with Prometheus, to integrate with Prometheus, to use Prometheus. Then we have the exporter toolkit, which we want to, of course, there is a typo. We want to extend the exporter toolkit with a common look and feel for all the exporters. So we want to have a home page. We want to have a metrics, a home page with some CSS, HTML that you can recognize in addition to the TLS stack. So really like, I want to grow that part so that across the ecosystem you have a really nice look and feel when you use an exporter. From the software perspective, we have the Prometheus agent, which is coming, which is a light version of Prometheus. So the Prometheus agent will be scraping data and doing the remote write. It will have a bit of storage required to do the remote write, but like it will not have the full TSDB, the full blocks, which will enable you to run Prometheus in smaller setups or in a way that will be less resource consumption. So you will have less resource consumption on this Prometheus agent, but you will still get all the good part of Prometheus, like the service discovery, the scraping, the remote write. So all of that will stay, just it will be like only that part. So you will not be able to query that agent locally, for example. We are working on new service discovery, especially like Linode, Kuma, Tencent, Cloud, which is a cloud in Asia. But we are also adding, and that's a big new feature, it might be merged by the time this presentation is live, a generic HTTP service discovery. So Prometheus has a generic service discovery now, and it is like local on disk, so you need to have a JSON file locally on the disk. Now we are extending that to be also over HTTP. This is important because like not every service discovery target that we want has nice Go bindings. So for example, we try to have like netbox support, and like it turns out that netbox does not provide Go libraries that the community wanted to really commit on. So we decided, okay, let's go for HTTPSD so we can address those people needs, and like they can write now a service discovery in Python, and that will just like work nicely, let's hope so. And it might even be like an official plugin for Netbox, but it can also be implemented by small cloud providers, by anyone. So that's coming, that's something that will come in Prometheus. The ecosystem, so we are working with OpenTelemetry, and OpenTelemetry wants to have like a Prometheus full compatibility. So we are working with them. We have weekly meetings to define, to track their status. So we are collaborating. This is really important for us. We see that OpenTelemetry is growing, and we want to let them grow, and we want to have happy users of OpenTelemetry so they can use like Prometheus and all the tools in the ecosystem. And we are working on a compliance project. So many projects and services embrace Prometheus and PromQL. So there is a compliance program baked by the CNCF. So we are working with CNCF. We are defining the rules, what it takes to be Prometheus compliant. We are writing unit tests. Currently, we have remote write and PromQL available, but like if you claim to be Prometheus compatible, now there are rules around it, and this will really help Prometheus grow and the Prometheus user to have the same experience across the tools. We know that there are multiple cloud providers, multiple open source projects that say that they are Prometheus compatible. Now we are actually like putting rules on that. A bit like Kubernetes also has a compliance program, and then you have like a logo Kubernetes compliant. We will do the same with Prometheus. So this was announced at the PromCon in the start of May. It will be finished, moved forward over the summer at the CNCF governance level. So this is something that will obviously grow in the future. So, and the conclusion is Prometheus is moving fast. So we are moving really fast in the project, and we are more than ever. We are listening to the users. We are open in our meetings, open in our decisions. And we are also open to experimenting. So we are exploring new areas. We are exploring new ways of working with metrics, with the exemplars, with the agent. We really are touching area we did not touch before. And we also want to address more users' needs. It's really important to me that we can just like, if you have an excuse not to use Prometheus, just tell us. Maybe it's not a good fit, but maybe with a small change, we can address your needs. So that's it. And that was my talks. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation today, and I am hopefully there to answer all your questions. Check out Inuits. We are open source consultants, and we have launched Prometheus offerings now. So if you need consultancy around Prometheus, just contact us. We will gladly help you with your Prometheus and observability needs. So Prometheus, Loki, Jaeger. We are building teams around observability. So please feel free to get in touch with us and contact us. Thank you, and I hope that you will enjoy the rest of StackConf.